Right. Okay, I think we're all set to start now. I would like to thank you all for coming, and just some housekeeping to start with. I have just started the recording on this on the proceedings, so hopefully we can have this available to view elsewhere, and others can see it at another time. We have a short but interesting program over the course of 3 hours. And what I would ask, again, just a little bit of housekeeping, if people that aren't speaking would be so kind as to mute their microphones. And when we come into question and answer session at the end of each session, you will have an opportunity. Either you can type in a comment at the end, or if you want it to unmute, put up your hands, obviously, if there's a few people, and we can come to you and ask questions. So we have, in our first session, we're looking at culture, a focus on culture preservation and restoration. I'm Dr. Alicia Chris, joined by my colleague, Professor Haralambous, John Haralambous, who was the founder of the Cyprus Centre. John is with us today, but he is under the nom de plume of Louise Ryan. He's borrowed the computer. So if you see Louise Ryan, that's actually John. So hello to John in London, and thank you for helping. I was supposed to be in London myself at the moment, but we've had a severe storm here in the west of England and in Wales, and unfortunately I'm not there, so we're both flying solo. So we will commence with the programme now. And as part of my welcome, I wanted indeed to welcome you all to this online conference, which has been organised with the support of the UK-Cyprus Enterprise Council and its associated organisation, EPISTEME, the Association of British Cypriot Professionals. And of course, we do need to acknowledge our supporters, which is the A.G. Leventis Foundation, who kindly fund our endeavours, and of course the Global Diversities and Inequalities Research Centre of London Metropolitan University, under whom we as a centre sit. So without further ado, I will have to apologise for Dr. Hussein, who unfortunately, due to a number of issues, including the storm, is unable to join us today. So she sent her apologies also, and we hope to hear from Dr. Hussein at a later date. So we will now jump forward to our what was to have been our second paper, which is a joint paper by Dr. Yorgos Panantonio from Trinity College Dublin, Dr. Athanasios Vionis from the University of Cyprus, and Dr. Francesco Rapanti from, again, Trinity College Dublin. And their paper is on the abandonment, cultural heritage and memorial healing in the Xerox River Valley in Larnaca. All three speakers presenting this paper jointly, although Athanasios is unable to join me, but our colleagues Yorgos and Francesco will be presenting this and the next paper. So I will now stop sharing and over to Yorgos and Francesco in Dublin.
Yeah, how? Sure. They don't, maybe. No. Just a moment, because the first time I'm using PowerPoint on Teams, and so can you all see it?
Yes, and ditto, so don't worry. I've had the same issue here.
Oh. Just a moment. Sorry,
load. I think we go on with the traditional way. Okay, it's again, but because you have two screens.
Yeah, but I can. It's okay. I think.
Yeah, I don't know what they see.
Can you see us? Can you see us in the PowerPoint now?
We can, yes.
Okay, so hello everybody. Thank you very much for this invitation, and I'm going to present the first paper on behalf of Thanasis, Francesco, and myself, and then Francesco is going to present the second paper. So this paper is on abandonment, cultural heritage, and memorial healing in the Xeros River Valley in Larnaca in Cyprus. And first, I'm going to give you an introduction on the Xeros River Valley. So Xeros River Valley is a locus of both coexistence and conflict between Greek and Turkish Cypriots during the years of the intercommunal unrest in the 60s, a place of settlement of Greek Cypriot refugees today, but also the abandonment of Turkish Cypriot quarters due to the population movements during the 1974 invasion. The centrality of this ancestral landscape in antiquity and its present abandonment are reprinted on collective memory on the archaeological and modern landscapes. Abandoned Turkish Cypriot settlements after the 1974 Turkish invasion and the division of the island, Christian and Muslim religious monuments, abandoned military bunkers on the hilltops around Gofinu from the period of the intercommunal strife, the medieval tower and the Ottoman watermill of Alaminos, and stone bridges of the British colonial period, abandoned beehives, as you see here, and other exceptional examples of traditional culture on the island comprise landmarks of this collective memory in the landscape of the valley today. At the same time, the presence and coexistence of these monuments in the Xeros River Valley in the 21st century, so today we focus on historical and contemporary archaeology, reflect timeless and current phenomena. Prosperity and symbiosis, displacement, immigration and human suffering, creation of national and religious identities, violent contestation, destruction of sacred sites and secular buildings, and abandonment. The Unlocking Sacred Landscapes project combines field archaeology with digital humanities, ethnography, psychology, cultural heritage management, and public and community archaeology, projecting the memory and historical identity of the communities of the Xeros River Valley throughout the ages. So today, focusing on two sites of sacred character, one related to the Greek Cypriot Orthodox community, that is a medieval church dedicated to Mary, the one you see here, and the other to the Turkish Cypriot Muslim community, that is on the second photo here, that is a 20th century cemetery in the valley. This paper will demonstrate how cultural heritage studies can contribute to healing this sense of abandonment and negative collective memory that characterize the landscape today. The Church of Panagia Stafkiotissa belongs to the community of Agios Theodoros, and it is located on the low hills between the villages of Agios Theodoros, Kofinu, and Alaminos, and this is where you see on the map. The monument is surrounded by the agricultural lands of the three villages below. It overlooks the sea to the south, while on the northeast it looks across the imposing Stavrovouni mountain and its monastery of the cross you see here. The single-aisle barrel-vaulted church of Panagia was built during the Venetian period towards the end of the 15th or early 16th century. According to local tradition, the inhabitants of the area dedicated the church to Virgin Mary Astafkiotissa, that means the patron of grains, as the area was rich in cereal production. The name of the church initially derived from the Greek for grain, stachi, stachion, stafkion, Astafkiotissa. The Church of Panagia Stafkiotissa is celebrated by the locals every Thursday after Easter with memorial services. The church, as you have seen, is a humble yet important monument for the local communities. It also comprises a landmark for collective memory in the modern history of the island and in the creation of cultural, religious, and national identities. It has been a place of religious cult by the Greek Orthodox Christians from the late Middle Ages to today. During the period of the national struggle between the Greek and the Turkish Cypriot on the island, that is from 1964 to 1974, the church was not accessible by the Greek Cypriots. The abandonment and the use of the church as a refugee by Turkish Cypriot shepherds between the years 64 to 74 have left their irreparable marks on the monument, as you see here. The church has two entrances, one on the south and another on the center of the west wall. Upon entering the church, you see the fragmented layers of the wall paintings we see here on the photograph. And these wall frescoes depict saints in medallions and narrative scenes from the New Testament, such as the Annunciation, the presentation of Virgin Mary, the birth and the crucifixion of Christ. The vivid scenes of the sinners in hell on the east supporting arch, however, are of special religious and artistic value. Such examples in religious visual art provide interesting information about the moral issues of Christian communities in medieval Cyprus and the cult of local saints from the Middle Ages to today. More than half of the wall frescoes bear marks of decay as a result of abandonment and neglect. Many locals recall that Turkish Cypriot shepherds lit fires inside the church when they used it as a shelter in the years between 64 and 74. The fires created a layer of soot over many of the wall paintings still visible today. Other evidence of destruction on the painted walls, that is graffiti of dates, Turkish Cypriot names and symbols, dates to the same period. The Cypriot Department of Antiquities undertook a conservation program of the wall paintings during the period between 1980s and 90s. A new conservation project started in 2019 as part of the broader management plan for the monument has been recently completed. The Turkish Cypriots of Kofinu, so we move to the second monument we're focusing on today. So the Turkish Cypriots of Kofinu and the neighboring villages buried their deceased in this cemetery since the second quarter of the 20th century, as evidence for fragmented tombstones. Turkish Cypriots still visit their dead and leave flowers despite the current abandonment state of the cemetery, as you see here. This is the southeast entrance of the cemetery, while there are two other entrances on the north and south. This entrance differs from the other two as it is higher than the closure wall and bears the emblem of the Turkish military group TMT, as you see here, in the center of the upper panel. This gate leads to the resting place of those 24 Turkish Cypriots killed during the conflict between the Greek Cypriot National Guard and the armed Turkish Cypriot group at Kofinu in 1967. And this is a very important moment for the history of contemporary Cyprus, as you know. A wall separates this section from the cemetery from the rest. Despite the feelings of abandonment of the cemetery, we can sense the special care that the Turkish Cypriot community has placed in honoring their dead for their sacrifice. As you enter the main area of this section, you will see at the right of this entrance 24 metal cases, as you see here, most likely for placing the photographs of each deceased. The graves themselves are orthogonal in shape with an orthogonal gap in the center. A panel with the names of the dead from the 1967 conflict is placed at the back of a stone structure north of the tombs. The area beyond this section is obviously the largest part of the cemetery, which is inaccessible from the special area of these 24 yards graves. As you can see, most tombs are located on the east side of the cemetery. All tombs face the direction of Mecca on the southeast, the holiest city of Islam and symbolic religious center for Muslims worldwide. In the broader cemetery area, the tombs are made of different materials. It is likely that the financially weaker Turkish Cypriot members of the community had simple tombs consisting of two standing stone slabs, one headstone and another slab at the feet of the deceased. Affluent inhabitants had orthogonal tombs of different construction types. Some of the female tombs were adorned with vegetal motifs, although it is difficult to tell with certainty the gender of the deceased based on the decorative elements and the type of the tomb. Scattered headstones are found throughout the cemetery. Most of them are decayed, and their inscriptions are fragmentary. Some of them preserve the name of the deceased, others the year of the burial, or phrases such as Rahuna Fatiha. This is a prayer to the soul, and you see the inscription here. The Technical Committee on Cultural Heritage in Cyprus has selected the Turkish Cypriot cemetery of Kofinu, together with 5 other cemeteries in the Greek Cypriot and the occupied parts of the island, for rehabilitation works. Interventions will include basic dignifying works such as cleaning up, fencing, and planting of trees. This initiative will enable people to conserve and restore the tombs and the memory of their deceased in a dignified manner. The Unlocking Sacred Landscapes, or Ansala Research Network, and you can go to the website and see what we do in the Ansala network, but also we have a dedicated website for the and digital tour for the Xeros River Valley. If you want to see, I can send you the link if you want. So this network is concerned with the study of the temporality, speciality, and materiality of Mediterranean sacred landscapes through time. A further mission of the network is public engagement and service to society. We strongly support the idea that humanities, and classics in particular, can play a significant role in societal change and the creation of a more human-centered and empathetic society. This is growing into a key role for Ansala in the context of social service and responsibility, as exemplified, for example, by our abandonment event, which took place in Cyprus in July 2021. Abandonment is an ongoing project in collaboration with various organizations. Its overall purpose is to raise awareness for Huntington's disease, a neurological condition caused by an expanded gene in the DNA. The 14 Huntington's gene causes cells in parts of the brain to gradually malfunction and die. As brain cells die, the person experiences changes in movement, thinking, and emotion. We organize lectures and psychotherapeutic seminars on abandonment from place to human beings, as well as photographic exhibitions based on crowdsourcing around landscape archaeology, but also collectible photographs available for sale exclusively in support of the association. Landscape archaeology is concerned with the mapping and understanding of sites according to their functional and hierarchical places within a broader social system. Analysis of spatial structures is expressive of social structures. As archaeologists and material culture historians, we study spatiality in relation to the creation of various personal and communal identities, and we regard material culture as active and meaningfully constituted. Thus, meaning governs everyday life social relationships rather than passively reflecting them. Contemporary scholarship regards embodiment as a key approach to understanding materiality, addressing the locus of the body as a material grounding for subjective experience, but also as the objectification of moral values and bodily ideas. Things like people have agency, or at least material objects are given meaning within agency. The characteristics of objects are important, but what manifests social power is a dialectic between landscapes, people, and things. Abandonment may take different forms and phases. Usually, intentionally or unintentionally, or as a result of coercion, we abandon objects, places, and people. Involuntarily or voluntarily, we witness or perform abandonment on a daily basis. Buildings, landscapes, objects that were once valuable goods or places of association are abandoned to time. Even more shocking is human abandonment when individuals abandon themselves and their people or are abandoned by them. Abandonment becomes even more severe when a neurological condition such as Huntington's disease is involved. This is a framework in which the Ansala network operates these activities, bringing together public history, community archaeology, psychology, medical humanities, art, and cultural heritage. In addition to fund and awareness raising in relation to Huntington's disease, we organize public days with a documentary and a photographic exhibition in our landscape and community archaeology research in the Xeros River Valley in Cyprus. And you can see the documentary if you go to the website I mentioned before. Among other monuments and sites in the area, we particularly focus on the Astafiotis Church and the Turkish Cypriot Kofinu Cemetery. In our attempt to answer the basic question of who owes the past, we proceeded with engaging with local communities by bringing the results of our field project and the region's natural and cultural landscapes closer to its present-day inhabitants through open days in combination with the development of a mobile application providing an on-site tour to landscapes and monuments in the Xeros River Valley. The ultimate aim has been to examine how residents and visitors in the Xeros River Valley make claims to, remember and experience religious and secular monuments and their surrounding landscapes, while also investigating how claims are managed, negotiated, and contested by local communities and the state. And I hope when you all end up in Cyprus one day, you will visit the Xeros River Valley with your phones and have a digital tour with this. An augmented reality mobile application developed in 3 languages, so we use English, Greek, and Turkish, serving as both an on-site and off-site guided tour for visitors in the area. By employing image recognition and utilizing a location-based practice, the application provides the users with an immersive and educational experience. Our own experience with such an application, employed for the first time on site in the cultural landscapes of Cyprus, and the reaction of the locals and other participants in the field, highlight its potential in enabling archaeostorytelling. But also the narration and visualization of the historicity of the landscape and the fate of religious and other monuments of the past 1500 years. In addition, considering issues of inclusivity and trauma, this aspect of the project has brought to the forefront how archaeology and cultural heritage studies can contribute to healing this sense of abandonment and negative collective memory that characterize the landscape today. I would like to conclude by bringing a challenging and conventional dimension of the project, combining historical archaeology, cognitive psychology, and digital humanities to the Astafiotis Church. We are currently running an experiment using both qualitative and quantitative approaches, measuring and evaluating people from various background experiences of this monument. Thus, we hope to open up new horizons and opportunities, moving from oppression to freedom, for the exploration of memory, experience, and perception of this religious space and its historical fate. We believe that this particular monument, as well as the Kofinu Cemetery I showed before, give rise to new forms of negotiations, strengthening the development of social resilience and contributing to resilient societies. Finally, in collaboration with Francesco, and in the context of his linking community archaeology and well-being in the Mediterranean, Loggia project that he will present to us now, we work on a program involving the communities, addressing how archaeology can promote community well-being in the Mediterranean context by focusing on the communities of the Xeros River Valley and including persons with disabilities, their families, and their carers. And with this, I thank you, and I will now invite Francesco. Or I don't know if you want to say something, Alicia, but
No, thank you so much. Absolutely fascinating, as I knew it would be. Loads of questions already, but as I said, we'll hold that off. We'll hear from Francesco first of all. But absolutely fascinating. You have done so much and brought such a different perspective to things. My slides don't catch up to where I was, so I will just skip forward to say that our next paper in the session will be a second paper from the same collaborators with Francesco. Oh, I beg your pardon, I've got the wrong speed. With Francesco presenting this particular one, and this paper will be Abandonment Thus Lost Forever, Archaeology for Wellbeing in the Xerox River Valley in Larnaca. So I will stop sharing my screen and over to you.
Thank you very much, Alicia. I now share my screen. Okay, you should be able to see my screen. Um, in um, in this presentation, we're going to more in depth on the last program that has been mentioned by Yorgos a moment ago, and we are going to see uh, abandonment, how abandonment related to heritage and archaeology can impact people well-being. And I will start by providing a framework to archaeology and well-being, and I then will focus on the specific program Archeologica that we ran in Cyprus last year. But before doing this, I want you to focus on this photo. It's a photo from a Cypriot village, Rethia, in the Paphos region, and it's a common image in Cyprus where we see an abandoned village with nature taking over. And you see, well, this photo, we use it among with other photos in our activities with the public. And we ask them to think about this photo, to think about, to tell the others to share their thoughts about abandonment, looking at the picture, looking at this heritage left abandoned in Brescia as well as in other villages and sites in Cyprus. And you would think maybe how this can help well-being. Basically, when we ask these people to our participants to talk about this, their perspectives, these are some examples of their opinions, their memories. So these houses were beautiful. This photo reminds me of my old life when there were no fences and you could go anywhere in the village. So basically, it reminds them of their childhood or the past life of Cyprus. But this kind of activity that can also be transnational in a way, because I also, as an Italian, or also these participants here who comes from Ireland, can relate to the same image. So this photo reminds me of my grandmother's house in Ireland, now overrun by nature. It was an 100-year-old house with a fireplace as its only source of heat. I remember living in the house in the summer 35 years ago and can still feel the warmth of the walls when the fireplace was working. So it was very nice to bring together the participants to hear from each other opinion on these sites, on their perceptions of abandonment. And we did this during the European Huntington Disease Network and the European Huntington Association Conference in 2022 in Bologna and 2023 in Blankenberg in Belgium. And we want to explore how this kind of activity based on photos representing heritage sites can help the well-being of the participants. We got very good feedback because these people really appreciated the opportunity to talk among each other on common aspects of their lives, meaning abandonment as it was the focus of the activity. This was very, of course, relevant because we wanted to address people of the Huntington community, people with the disease, people from the family, and the carers. So this was a sort of a pilot of our project that we then developed and ran in Cyprus, and we got very good feedback. And how this kind of activity can help well-being. There are many ways to describe well-being, but one of the most immediate way is to refer to the framework of the five ways to well-being. So a set of evidence-based actions which can improve well-being, like take notice, so be curious about what is happening around you, be active, physically active, connect with other people, socialize, give, so do something for the others, keep learning, so acquire use new skills. How archaeology and heritage can contribute to these five ways of well-being apart from the photos activity that I've just described. One of example for all is this one in Belgium, Waterloo Uncovered, where veterans are involved in the excavation of the ancient battlefield of Waterloo, where Napoleon was defeated. It is a project run by a UK charity, which involved a number of veterans from the Iraqi and Afghan wars, and they found out over the years, it is a project running since a decade, for a decade now, and they found out that this kind of involvement excavating alongside archaeologists really help the veterans to increase their level of well-being and especially fight the post-traumatic stress disorder. So there are main opportunities for participants, for archaeology, and for the health sector to run this program. So for participants, there are among the confirmed outcomes, reduced anxiety and depression, improved mood and emotional regulation, social inclusion, and bonding. For archaeology and for heritage in general, it's an opportunity to widen the groups of stakeholders involved and demonstrate more clearly its impact on the contemporary society. And for the health sector, could be a way to improve health prevention and health promotion. So starting from this kind of pilot project that we did in Bologna and Blankenberg, and from these other case studies we have looked at before starting the project, we thought to connect with the project in the Xeros Valley and start doing research about how archaeology can contribute to the well-being of vulnerable groups, specifically through this project, LOGIA, Linking Community Archaeology and Well-being in the Mediterranean, a European-funded project. It is funded through a Marie Skłodowska-Curie postdoctoral fellowship, but we want to focus on the Mediterranean, and we want to investigate the connections between community archaeology and well-being. So this is why we thought that the Xeros Valley was a very good setting where to run the project. Archaeology, as Yorgos has shown a moment ago, archaeologists has already experienced their community activities. There were very good bonding between the villages and the archaeologists. They already experienced also programs with the vulnerable groups such as Huntington community, so it was a very good, and also the setting, of course, of the valley with the troubled stories, the troubled recent history was very interesting as a setting. And so we worked to make this happen, and we ran Archeologica, meaning a project with an archaeological mind attitude approach, which we ran in 2023 in these dates. And how this project worked: we had some partners, archaeologists. We had in the archaeological sector, so we have the Archaeological Research Unit of the University of Cyprus and the Loki Sacred Landscapes of Cyprus project. And then we have health partners, Cyprus Alliance for Rare Disorders, Cyprus Institute of Neurology and Genetics, and then we have a third group, the local communities, so the Bishopric of Trimitus, and also of course the Kinocites of the Valley, the small municipalities of the Valley, the Xeros. Among the target group, we wanted to include the local communities, the Huntington community, families and carers. What we want to achieve with this program: we wanted to find spaces of interaction and dialogues, and we want these people to actively engage with the Valley's heritage. So we don't want the participants to come to meet us and listen to a lecture, listen to a conference, but we want them to be active participants of a project. So this is why we set up a program made of 6 sessions, both outside and outdoor, with an introduction to archaeology and with some work, practical work on cleaning the Church of Aia Marina, and then the activity that I'm going to show you now about the photo. So in this short video, there is no audio. You can see some images of the activity with the participants involved in cleaning the remains of these apse, and then with a little iasmos, a little blessing at the end of the activity. And then you see the participants taking pictures and get engaged with the monuments of the valley. Select the pictures and then end the program with a photographic exhibition curated by the participants themselves. They chose their own pictures and they wrote in a caption their perspective on abandonment. Some feedback about the church, the activity at the Church of Aia Marina. The participants liked how the activity brought people together. It was a very pleasant experience, especially the interaction with the natural landscape and the other participants. This activity was only a cleaning activity, not an excavation activity, and it has been endorsed by the Department of Antiquity of Cyprus. About the other activity, we had a guided tour of the selected abandoned sites run by Professor Athanasios Vionis, and then together the participants and the archaeologists took pictures of these sites to develop the final photo exhibition. Participants liked the opportunity to revisit their favorite monuments with different eyes, and they like to work outside, to connect with other people, to learn new things. And we focused on many monuments in the valley, both Turkish Cypriot sites, like this building of the Turkish Cypriot quarter of Kofino, dated to 1933. This building inspired a lot of pictures, and I will show you just a couple. This one is actually my picture, and I mentioned for the caption a small poem from Pablo Neruda, which to me represented very well the idea of abandonment. And then another participant took this picture and did finally time stop as the here the date, the stone with the date of the building is collapsing. But we focus also on the Greek Cypriot heritage sites, and also on the medieval and late antique sites of the valley. I show another couple of pictures from the tower house of Alaminos, very close to Kofino. This tower built around 40 tower house for built about around 1460. Participants with the participants, we went closer to the tower. We checked the details, and then after Athanasios Pionis ended his expert guided tour, participants had the time to look around, to take their pictures. And so this one, time passes even through locked doors, was very evocative caption. And monuments are the traces left from the human passage. They connect past and future. We have to respect and maintain them for the next generation. So we don't want to have abandoned monuments. We need, they are important. They represent our past. We want to maintain for the next generation. And these photos were exhibited on the last event of the program. Here's some photo, which has been held in the village of Agios Theodoros. And the event included, of course, the pictures on the right, the pictures of the participants, a small workshop for children. And then we involved the visitors who came to visit the exhibition in the photo activity that I described at the beginning. So we provided them with some photos. They chose actually their favorite photo, and they started together in small groups, debating, discussing about abandonment, taking this inspiration from the photo they have chosen. And then we have also a Christmas market, which was run in collaboration with the Huntington Disease Association of Cyprus, with the aim to raise awareness on the disease. We collected the data all along the program for each session, and the questionnaires showed us that there has been an increase in the well-being level in each session from the participants. So the activities worked for what this was the main objective of the program. So we are very happy to see that the level of well-being increased during each session. And then also, if we see the data about community well-being against individual well-being, we see that both of them increased. So although we can think that photography can be a solitary activity, actually participants collaborated together to take pictures, asking help or feedback from the others. So also the community aspects, the integration between participants, the socialization between participants seems to work pretty well. From the interviews that we also had with the participants, most of them, they were very surprised because they didn't expect such a kind of involvement in the program. So they were happy of the way the program was designed, and because many of them thought, okay, we are going there to listen to a lecture, but was something different. And then also for the opportunity to connect with the past in a different way. So as a conclusion, expectations, archaeology is the main trigger for participation. We advertise the program thinking about the potential of archaeology for involvement. Probably they would have liked more outdoor activities to explore more the valley. Participants at the beginning felt a little bit disoriented, but then they get more engaged session after session, and at the end they were really involved in the organization of the exhibition. We met unexpected difficulties in engaging people with Huntington and their families. for a series of reasons. The valley is not an uncentral place in Cyprus. We would have needed a more complex infrastructure probably to support their participation. But anyway, it was a very first experiment with the Huntington community. We are happy that we try to involve this community in the activities. Using photo works well to stimulate conversation and to recall personal memories. So the photo was a very good approach. And members of the local community, as a challenge, tend to participate in their activities based in the territory. So it was a bit difficult to involve the inhabitants of a village in an activities happening in another village. But this is something that we is an experience that a first experience that we had, and we will take advantage of this information for the next ones. So I would conclude here. Of course, I'm very happy to answer any questions from the attendees. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesca. That's really, really interesting, and such an interesting take on things to involve groups like Huntington Group. It's such an unusual take, because usually archaeology kind of sits alone and the medical kind of field sits alone. So to bring the two communities together is really interesting. I'll kick off the questions, if I may. First of all, for the first paper, Yorgos, you mentioned that the Turkish Cypriot graveyard. I was wondering, we spoke before about the names for the Greek Cypriots, that it was difficult to trace families because the Greek Cypriot names with the British rule changed a lot. Was there a same issue with the Turkish Cypriot names? Is there an issue with tracing graves, or is it easier to identify what family graves, who belongs to which family plots?
Thank you, Alicia. Of course, I'm not a modern historian, so I cannot say this 100%, but I will expect that the British, under the British rule, it was the same situation between the Greeks and the Turkish Cypriot. I also discussed it with some colleagues, and the common, some people in the audience may be more suited to answer this question, but many Cypriots think that the British made Cypriots to change their surname, so to stop the generations. But then some specialists say that this is not how it really happened, but there are different processes behind it. And I'm not sure about the different processes behind changing the name. So it wasn't, some people say they were not really forced to do it, but they were choosing to do it. But I don't know why, and then why it's so different in Cyprus when comparing, let us say, to Ireland, where people can trace their roots back to centuries.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to see the whole thing, the layout of the graves, the work that you're doing, the work in the church as well. The image of Banaia, the Virgin Mary, the one that looks newest, is that a new image that was put up, or is that a restored image on the church that you showed, the Greek Orthodox Church?
The image I showed now is before restoration. Now there is some restoration. So, for example, they remove the metal bell and they made the landscape architecture around the monument with plants, etc. But I didn't have a photo of this. But it's a very recent thing. But this was also a more artistic photo of my brother who took just before the restoration. But yeah.
Beautiful photos, and the connection that you have with Huntington is very interesting, and the community work you're doing, and that idea of memory, because being half Irish, I can also identify with the old Irish houses and sitting next to a fire, and to the point that I can remember the feel on my legs, that you'd have to sit so close to the fire. Your legs would go red and you get chilblains, this itching on your toes because your toes would tingle. And when you said that, it's funny, that connection with memory, because I was remembering that tingle with my toes, trying to get your feet so close to the fire to warm yourself up, because in some houses, the older houses, absolutely, it was the only source of heat. So it's very interesting. And what you're doing, as I said, with Huntington's, are you looking at other groups like Alzheimer groups, with, that connection, that memory to trigger memory?
Yeah, I mean, in the project I had two case studies, the one in Cyprus and one other in Italy. In Italy, I worked with people with mental disease and with psychiatrists. My father is a retired psychiatrist, so I had this opportunity from my childhood to get used to meet these people, to do activity with them. So I thought, why not to try to have them engage also with museums, and this was a past experience a decade ago I did with them, and then now with archaeology. So and during the program we had also the opportunity to talk with many people. We had here at Trinity workshop connecting threads, where we invited also specialists working with other kind of groups, Alzheimer's, as you said, especially there are many initiatives related to Alzheimer's. But yeah, so our experience with Huntington and people, another community with mental health problems.
Yes, and it's so interesting what you're doing with the hands-on as well, that the images really evoke memory and make that connection, and you do, it arises all sorts, and sometimes it can be fanciful, because what do you remember, the nostalgia you remember maybe wasn't quite the same. No fences meant dogs could come and run at you, which is what I experienced sometimes in Neveroru, my grandmother's village in Cyprus, that no fences, and you could something in the distance, and you couldn't cross a fence or a gate to get away. So sometimes the memory sometimes is nostalgic, but it does still evoke that memory, and photographs really do that. But what you're also doing, the hands-on work that you're doing, the cleaning, where communities can really feel involved, and I can see how that would really help with the well-being, because you feel like you're active, that you're positively doing something and contributing to the community. And that leads me to my next question, if you don't mind, because I know I'm jumping in ahead of everyone else with the questions. But I was wondering, because of course, with Cyprus, the two main groups you talk about, the Turkish Cypriots and the Greek Cypriots, but there are a lot of other communities now in Cyprus and a lot of other incomers. Do you find to build communities and to try to build connections for communities that may not have the memory, the historical memory, do you find you have any outreach to try and involve, say, the British, of which there's quite a number now in Cyprus, or other communities in those minority groups in Cyprus? Do you also involve them to try to give them that feeling of community?
Yeah, we do. For example, we had the Archaeological Society of the British base. They actually reached to us asking us for a tour there. And also we have online offsite tour, so everybody can visit the site digitally. And also we have a mobile application for the communities, but also for the whole Cyprus and the tourists and the visitors, actually trying to attract in this neglected area. Nobody would think to visit this area, but it was very important area. Actually, this is where all started when you have the communal problems. So more, let's say, educated or cultural people like to go and see this place. So they're interested on the beach, of course, and there is a beach nearby, actually, in Alaminos. But if you want, anybody can go and do this tour, and even by themselves with their phone. So we try to include people like this, and we translated this in English and Turkish also.
Yes, oh, excellent. But thank you very much both, and I'd like to open up now if anyone else would like to ask any questions. And my colleague John is there. Iris, your hand is up. Please go ahead if you want to unmute yourself, and I'll mute myself now.
Okay, thank you both. The presentations were excellent, and the work that you are doing. And actually, I wasn't aware of that you had all these activities open for the public. Next time, I would like to join as well. I would love to. It looked really amazing. I just have a question. What do you think is the reason of the abandonment? I'm assuming it's not just because of 1974 and the war. And also, when these areas are going to become restored, will they become how can I say this? How can you avoid them being abandoned again?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there are different levels of abandonment on the site. So first of all, what we didn't really start this project as we're interested on antiquity and then on the medieval past, and then this was our original target, and it was a multidisciplinary team. So we had specialists. Thanasis, for example, is doing late antiquity to the Ottoman past. I was doing the ancient period. Antiquity, and then Dorian Nicolaou, who is the other co-director, is doing late antiquity. So we really had archaeological interest. So we are seeing different levels of abandonment there. But working on this site, by nature, you cannot avoid the contemporary past. So we thought how this landscape is meaningful for the contemporary history of the island. So we moved to historical and contemporary archaeology to community archaeology. We started out of interest, connecting the abandonment there originally just for fundraising, and now we're raising for the Handictostis community for personal connections with the association. And then eventually we thought we can incorporate this into the research. Then Francesco came with his project, and then we included also more actively design community archaeology projects there. So there are different levels of abandonment from prehistory, let us say, to contemporary words. So there are intentional abandonment. We have seen intentional destructions, unintentional destructions, like we have seen in the cemetery and in the church, in the Staphyotissa church. Also, life changing of technology. Let us say we have the abandoned beehives there, and people just change. The family died. They didn't. They changed the way they maintain bees. So not all of the monuments will be restored, and not all of them are actually considered archaeological with the law. So not all of them will be restored, but we try to preserve the memory of these with oral histories, etc. Digitization, recording, but also some of the monuments, for example, as I said, there is a plan for the cemetery to be conserved. It didn't happen yet, but we hope it will. The church already has been restored. They decided not to restore the graffiti, and I think this is the right decision because it is part of the history of the monument. So there are different levels of abandonment, and also some of them will be restored, some of them no, but at least we try to record them and leave them in the memory of people. I don't know if you want to add something.
Maybe I can add only that relating to the present, the contemporary life in the Xeros Valley, I mean, abandonment has always happened and will always happen. But if people care about something, and then objects and sites are not abandoned as long as people take care of them. So this brings also another element of interest to our discussion, because the community, the Greek Cypriot community living today in the Xeros Valley, is a displaced community from that was living in the occupied area. Now, so they didn't feel this connection to the Xeros Valley because it was not their place of origin. So of course, there is a process ongoing where they now they are living there for 50 years, and then I mean they also, with our activities and programs, we wanted to try to get them more involved with the past of the Xeros Valley, and by getting them involved in the program, I think this can happen, and then they can take care in the future of these heritage sites and or keep supporting the archaeologists.
But I think a key element is also the connection of abandonment with the personal abandonment. So with psychology and how we all feel, especially we related this to disease and how people are abandoned. So this was very meaningful for people. So it was one aspect was contemporary societal issues having to do with health, and then political memory and other trauma. So it's very interesting. And also today we have the asylum is actually there. The abattoir, the national abattoir was there. Now it's abandoned actually. So we even tried to reach people in the asylum and create a program with them, but this is something for the future because it's a bit difficult also. And also we want to approach targeted Turkish communities and try to find Turkish Cypriot communities and try to find links there. So it's a lot of complexity going on there, but it's very interesting, many different levels.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting, actually. Yeah, I like it that there's this complexity, because I know other people want to ask a question as well. I just want to ask, is there a walking trail near there or a hiking trail to make it easier for people to visit?
I can put the link now in the chat. It is we suggest a route, so you can do it either with a bicycle, on foot, or with a car, depending how you want. But there is a suggested trail from Kofino and Alaminos, and then up in the hill for the Astafiotis, etc. I can put it now. I will put it for you in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that would encourage more people to go. That's why I asked. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for your question, Iris. I think I am with you. I had no idea that this existed, and actually where my family is from is quite close to this area. So I think I also will be investigating next time I'm in Cyprus, because it does look absolutely fascinating and a terrific community project. Nora, you have your hands up. Would you like to go ahead with your question?
Thank you very much. Really excellent presentations, both of them. I just wanted to ask, is there a direct connection between Huntington's disease and Xeros, or was that a general? Is there a connection that I'm sorry if I missed it in your presentation?
No, the connection is that I come from a Huntington's family, and I was also the president of the Huntington's Disease Association of Cyprus. So I tried to use archaeology for fundraising. So we did the photographic exhibition and also raise awareness. But after this, we saw that it really works on research. Then we used the photographs. Then Francesco came in. We created collaboration with the European Association and then with the Cyprus Institute of Neurology and Genetics, and it all happened very naturally.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
So I put the link now for all of you.
Yes, please. And if for any reason people can't see it on the chat, I can always send it out separately.
And I will also put the network one, which is different, but
fantastic. No, that it really is very interesting. I would very much like to go and, as Iris said, do the tour and find out a little more about it. It really is very interesting. Were there any more questions from anybody for this session? Because I wouldn't like to miss anyone. If anyone wanted to unmute, I can't see any other hands up. Yeah, I think we're all right. Thank you so much, both of you. Absolutely fascinating. I had no idea of any of it. Like I said, I'm over and back to Cyprus quite a bit in this area, and I had no idea that this was going on. So really interesting to highlight it, and especially those links with Huntington's and other medical issues. You can see how it could expand so much, and how something like this, especially because they talk about music and memory, but you can see with that history and that oral history that people would have in cultures like Cyprus, and to then have that sort of connection and the visual connection, I can absolutely see how it would help so many different groups. Sorry, Nora, did you have another question? Oh, no, I don't think so. So as we are...
Iris
yeah, I'm sorry. I just have a rather cheeky question. I'm sorry about this.
Go ahead.
So were the projects was it mostly Greek Cypriots who were involved?
Yeah.
Or did Greek Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots come as well?
No, this started as a project of the University of Cyprus. So it's a archaeological survey project, so fieldwork. And then we included these historical and contemporary archaeology monuments. But we talked with some Turkish Cypriot colleagues, for example, we talked to Ersin, and we tried to reach some communities on the in the occupied part. And we hope that eventually we will also, the call was open to everybody when we did the open day. So Turkish Cypriots would come, but then we didn't, probably had only one participation. But we want to targetedly go and reach for some people that were living in the area, but this is the next stage. But it is open. What we do is open to everybody, and actually this is why we translated everything also in Turkish. Like we had to pay somebody to do everything in Turkish also.
Excellent. Right, well, thank you very much. And as I said, we're a little bit ahead of time because we unfortunately are missing our first speaker. So I hope that is all right with the speakers of our second session. We're only about 10 minutes ahead of time, which is very unusual with our conferences. So many thanks again, both. And I will check in again because I think it'd be really interesting to hear follow-up presentations from yourself, and when we re-examine this theme again, I think it'd be really interesting to hear from you again. So I will now attempt to
Thank
share.
you.
Thank you, Yorgo. So if we go back, so we are now going, we are going on to, I think I've done something, I'm not sure what you can see, but I think, oh, 1 minute. I am so sorry, I am all over the place with this one. We are now in session 2. There we go. Session 2. So this is sustainability and the preservation of the environment. And this time we are looking at a focus on cooperative sustainable development. We have a number of speakers in this session, and we'll commence with Dr. Mabel Aquinas, who is a senior lecturer at London Metropolitan University and a council member of the British Educational Research Association. And she will read us a short poem entitled Ecological Resistance. So I will now stop sharing. And Mabel, if you are ready, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alicia. Yes, I am going to read a poem. Thank you. Thank you for this. Ecological resistance, or it also is called trees. Trees grow toward the sky and toward the earth. Their branches and roots stretch and expand. Sometimes trees seem solitary giants competing for water, nutrients, and sun. But trees vibrate, feel, cry. They are native carriers and protect the earth, renew the air, heal, shelter, console, accompany. Trees are magicians without a hat. With rabbits, birds, and all living beings, they are. Trees refuse to be just wood. They caress their branches moved by the wind. They dance with chemical and slowly pulsing electrical signals, with smells and sounds. Trees communicate. But their true action is under the skin, underground. Trees are social beings. Their roots form networks with fungi, and the young seedlings connect to the wisdom of old trees. Tall trees don't compete for energy, they share it, giving life to new generations. Mother tree. Trees are a part of a larger whole and grow toward the sky and toward the earth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mabel. A lovely rendition. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my camera back. Thank you so much for that. I think it really sets the tone now for our the rest of our presentations this afternoon. A very beautiful poem, and it was your own poem. Fascinating.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So going back to our right, so moving on to our next presenter now, we have Professor Saleh Güçel, who's affiliated with the Faculty of Agriculture Landscape Department at the Near East University, and he will now present a paper on the study on the biodiversity of the buffer zone. So I will stop presenting, and Saleh, I think you should be okay to start sharing now.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sharing. Okay.
Lovely. Yes, we can see that now. That's great.
Sorry. So I am going to. Okay, sorry. Welcome everyone. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for organizing this very interesting event. I would like to give you information about the studies on and around the biodiversity of the buffer zone. So we in 2003. So I'm going to explain, give you a brief history from 2003 until now. So we had the chance those days to have a solution to open checkpoints between the two sides, and then we had the chance to move around on all over Cyprus and realize what had happened until then. Because during the two sides were separated each other. I mean, we were always thinking about what has been done to the buffer zone. So, but the buffer zone lies in the center of Cyprus, and it's 180 kilometers. The other name of this area is called Green Line. So when after 2003 we had the chance to meet with our colleagues, with people with same interests like me, biology, different sections of biology, birds, insects, plants, animals. And so we were wondering what's happening within this area, the buffer zone. And we were thinking that everything is fine there. I mean, like it's a great, like it's an oasis. The wildlife is doing well, the nature is doing well there. So we decided to set up several projects within the buffer zone, and by chance in 2006 the United Nations with USA funded by the USAID, UNDP, decided to establish a platform called Cyprus Environmental Stakeholder Forum in order to bring together environmental NGO representative, educator, journalists, engineers, academics, business leaders, so that they can start discussing the problems and possible solutions for these problems all together in Cyprus. And now this next Mihalis Loizis will give a presentations about technical committee on environment, and this is the first this is the primitive version of technical committee, and during the years this Cyprus Environmental Stakeholder Forum evolved into a technical committee, and the project that we started, the project that I'm going to mention now, they are evolving more detailed projects within the technical committee on environment. So the first project was the biodiversity of the buffer zone, was a project that we did together with Iris Karalambidu. She's going to give you more details after me. And so mainly it was her idea to study the biodiversity of the buffer zone, and in order to understand what's happening there. So we did. For us, it was an area protected by the wires, by the walls, by the soldiers, army, the United Nations. So, and it wasn't very easy in those days, in 2006, 2007 to 2009. The situation was a bit strict. So we decided to study this area for 14 months, starting from July 2007 until September 2009. So as you see below, the Mouflons, it's the flagship of Cyprus. And they exist in the buffer zone, in the west part of the buffer zone. So it's 180 kilometers. So we had to select locations within the buffer zone. So we used 8 locations in the buffer zone, and those 8 locations represent different kind of habitats. Like Derinia in the east is next to the sea with a small shoreline. Varisha here, it's a Varisha in the east above Lefka is a kind of mountainous area. Most of the areas in the Messoria plain are farmlands, and there is old Nicosia airport and Nicosia in the center. So they were mostly the developed parts or the urban sites. So we with this one, we wanted to identify the species inside the buffer zone, and also we wanted to check the threats faced by the biodiversity and nature in this area. So basically, we didn't find something different than the rest of Cyprus, because it was lying in the middle of the island. So, and the buffer zone is not that wide. The widest part is in Varisha region here at the west. It's 9 kilometers, and in other places the area is very narrow, or there are people who are farming the land in the in Messoria region, in the plain. So that's why it wasn't interesting. Whatever we found was the same with the other one. What was interesting that because there was no serious human influence on this land, on this area, then the plants and animals were doing better than the rest of Cyprus. So this was the main finding that we had in this project. So we decided to check the birds here, the reptiles, the mammals, the insects. So these were the main groups that we were looking for. When we realized that it's a place that is protected from humans and protected from outside, so we decided to check whether it's possible to protect some plants within this region. So we set up another project within the buffer zone in order to protect the endemic orchid of Iriskochi. It's endemic to Cyprus, only exists in Cyprus, and Cyprus Tulipa cyprea within the buffer zone. So since 2007, this area in Mamari region is fenced, and then the researchers are visiting this area every year to see how the tulips are doing there. Local authorities are bringing students to see what is protection and explain them why tulips are important in Cyprus. So now, and we had another project around Cyprus, island-wide wetland bird surveys. We established this project just after the avian flu incidents. So our aim was to study the birds, the bird movements in Cyprus, in order to figure out how would be how would be how would the virus movement, how would the virus move through the island. So we added this blinking in the south. They were counting the birds, water birds, for many years, and in 2007 we included these blinking dots in the project. So we had an island-wide wetland bird surveys, and we identified the bird species in all these wetlands. Also, we established a group of bird photographers. Now they are acting like a guards. Guards of the wetlands. They every week still they go out to take photos of birds, and they inform us from what's happening around the wetlands. And now this is here this orange one is next to Miamilia or Haspolat wastewater system. It became one of the most important wetlands or waterbird areas in Cyprus because of the availability of water. And now the EU is trying to drain the ponds, and so we heard about this because of the we heard about the last developments because of the two NGOs one from the north and one from the south, and they are demonstrating to protect the ponds in this area. So this is what's happening at the moment. Also, we had another project in those days in order to set up a pan-Cypriot network of nature conservation organizations. We had conferences, we established a book, and now Mihalis is going to mention the second phase of this one. So thanks to this project and the others, that now we have more information and more we have more information, and we have more awareness about these areas, and groups, NGOs, and conservation organizations are cooperating with each other for finding solutions to problems of Cyprus. So these are the main things that we did in those days. Now we have many other projects that we are doing together. I would like in those days we had a huge support from the UNDP AG, from Nicholas Jorod, UNFICIPS, with these all these people, and also we got support from the USAID, and we would like to thank to them. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Again, absolutely fascinating. I have so many questions already, but I will hold off until we've heard from all our speakers, and then if that's okay, we will ask questions. But already I have a list of questions I have written here. So many thanks. We'll move on to our next speaker, and as I said, we will then anyone that wishes to ask any questions, please do. So our next speaker, hopefully this should come up. So our next speaker is Dr. Iris Haralambidu, who's the Associate Professor in Ecology at the Department of Life Sciences in the University of Nicosia. She's also a board member of the Bi-Communal Environmental Network Forum, and her talk is going to be on the biocommunal environmental work on the biodiversity of Cyprus. So Iris, I will stop sharing and then over to you.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. So shall I'll share my presentation, then I'll share it from...
Please, I have it as backup here if you can't get in, but hopefully...
No, it's okay, no. Okay, I don't know if everyone can see it now.
Yes, it's showing up. Oh, we've lost it again. It was there, but we weren't in presentation. We saw it as a grid.
Ah, okay. I'll just try again. Should be okay now.
Yes, lovely. We can see it.
Okay. Okay, so many thanks for inviting me to give this presentation, and thank you for this event. And also it was very nice to start the environmental section with a lovely poem. That was very nice as well. I like that. So anyway, my name is Iris Haralambidu. I'm a biologist and an ecologist. And as you mentioned before, I work at the University of Nicosia. And if you've noticed, Salih actually mentioned some of the projects that we have worked on together. So I just wanted to mention that I've actually been cooperating with Salih since 2005. So I'm just going to give you an overview of some of the results that we found in our study of the buffer zone, just to give you an idea of some the issues that we have been studying. When we came up with this idea to study the biodiversity in the buffer zone, it's, as Salih mentions, one of the reasons was because we didn't really know what was going on in that area. But another reason was also because we are both very passionate about the environment. And we realized that there was only a handful of people at that time, only a very few people in Cyprus were actually specialized in studying environment. And we kind of had this vision that we wanted to get together, to pull together Greek and Turkish Cypriot ecologists and environmental experts, and to convince them to work together in a team, because we also felt it was symbolic to have a mixed group of experts that would enter the buffer zone and study its biodiversity for the first time ever. And we thought it would be more appropriate that we would be a combined group of experts. So we actually managed to pull together a team of Greek and Turkish Cypriots. We also had a researcher from Turkey, because we didn't have, as I mentioned before, we only had experts in some fields in Cyprus at that time. In the last 10 years in Cyprus, there are lots more ecologists now. But at that time, it was actually quite difficult to find enough people to do this work with us. So I'll just give you some overview of some of the interesting things that we found. And these also reflect, as Salih mentioned, they also reflect the species that are found in other parts of Cyprus as well. But the main thing that we found in the buffer zone was we found healthy populations of various species. And also, we also wanted to get a mixed team of people to cooperate together, because we had a vision for the future that we were hoping that this would be something that would continue in the future as well. And actually, since we have been collaborating since 2005, together with Salih, I think we've set up at least more than 15 bi-communal projects that deal with the environment. So because I'm starting with large mammals, I imagine, okay, I don't know if all of you have been to Cyprus. Those of you who have been to Cyprus, I imagine that you've noticed on the Cypriot euro coins this image here. So you may send your answers in chat if you like. What animal is depicted on the coins? So actually the animal on the coins is the Cyprus mouflon. Salih showed you a picture earlier of the mouflon as well. And I'm just giving you a cheeky little question that I ask my students as well. What type of animal is the Cyprus mouflon? Is it a species of wild goat, wild sheep, deer, or antelope? And I even have students who think it's an antelope, or, okay, wild goat. That's more understandable to imagine that. Anyway, it's actually a species of wild sheep. It's an endemic species to Cyprus. And it was actually brought to Cyprus by people about 11,000 years ago from the Levant. And the main difference between the mouflon in the photos, this is a group of females here and a group of males. These are photographs that we took in the buffer zone. So in the large mammal surveys, we actually had a Turkish Cypriot scientist who was specialized in large mammals. She works in Turkey now. And we set up cameras in different parts at those 8 different sites that Salih showed you earlier. And we used infrared detection systems to see what mammals were found in those areas. And then every month, we actually visited those 8 sites once a month for a whole year, which is when we did, so basically that's when we did our field work. So every month we downloaded the data from the infrared cameras. We collected a lot of data from this. The Turkish Cypriot scientist, she has published the results, and I'm just showing you some very nice close shots of some of the mammals that we find in Cyprus. We actually found a lot of activity going on in the buffer zone. So here is a fox, the Cyprus mouflon, chewing on some grass. and the hair as well. And this is the photo that Salih showed you earlier. It's a very nice profile of a hair taken from with one of our cameras. So basically, we actually found important populations of some mammals in the buffer zone. This is Varisha village, which is an abandoned village in the west part of Cyprus, the mountainous area that Salih mentioned to you earlier. And we found a very healthy population of about 200 to 300 mouflon inhabiting this area now. So I just wanted to mention when you showed in the archaeology presentations earlier, the house and the nostalgia that many people may feel when they see an abandoned house. On the other side of the coin is the abandoned house that you showed was actually covered in very nice vegetation. We went to this abandoned village. We actually felt sad for the people who lost their houses. On the other hand, we also saw a lot of wildlife in this area, and we are hoping that when there is a solution to the Cyprus problem, and these areas are returned back to their rightful owners, that they're going to be managed sustainably so that we can actually sustain these very important populations of different species that live there now. So abandonment also has, there's another side to abandonment of areas by humans as well. We also had, this is a Turkish scientist who came from, I can't remember if he was from Izmir University, his name Professor Ahmet Garadash. We did not have any expert in Cyprus to do small mammal surveys, so Professor Garadash came and did that. And so he set up different live traps. You can catch the animals alive here in the different field sites. And he also used bat detectors at some locations. And here are some pictures of some of the mammals that were observed or that he caught. Okay, so this is the Egyptian fruit bat. Cyprus is the only country in the European Union that supports populations of this bat species. This is one of the two species of shrew that we have in Cyprus, and not many people get to see this mammal, and obviously the long-eared hedgehog that many of you have probably also seen in the cities. Overall, though, the amazing thing is that while there are, this is a comparison of how many mammal species we found in the buffer zone and how many exist overall in Cyprus. So we found that from the 14 terrestrial mammal species found in Cyprus, we actually observed 11 in the buffer zone. And this is to remind you that we only managed to do field work 1 day every month at each site. Okay, so this is so that you can realize how actually rich these areas were. With only one visit per month, that we actually managed to collect quite a lot of data. In relation to bats, there are 22 species of bats in Cyprus. We only managed to see 6, but the reason for this is because we could not go in the evening. We could only do our field work in the daytime. We also did, as Salih mentioned, reptile surveys. These are a couple of students of Professor Bayram Göçmen, who is actually an excellent herpetologist from Cyprus, but unfortunately he passed away 5 years ago. These are some photos showing his personality. He was like really into nature. You can see it from the way he's kissing a lizard over here. So he's actually one of the big names in herpetology in Cyprus. And he was one of the main herpetologists that we could find on the island at the time. There are more herpetologists now. In relation to the reptiles, he and his team found lizards, snakes, and the terrapin. So out of the 11 lizard species found in Cyprus, his team observed all 11 species. Out of the 11 snake species, we saw at least half of them in the buffer zone. And okay, when I say turtle, these are 2 of the turtles here are the marine turtles. We did not do any surveys in the coastal areas. So this represents the terrapin that we find in freshwater habitats in Cyprus along Bediaeus River. So these were very important findings as well. And again, I remind you, this was just fieldwork once a month at each site. So we actually saw lots of wealth of reptiles in the buffer zone. I'm just showing you a few pictures. This is a very common species around Cyprus. However, there are only various locations now that have decent populations of this species. This is the Caspian pond turtle. This is the terrapin that we found in Bediaeus River. And this is a photo taken by one of the United Nations soldiers when he saw a blunt-nosed viper. So also in relation to the amphibian species, there are only 3 species found in Cyprus. So there are 2 frog species and 1 toad found in Cyprus, and we saw 2 of the frog species that are found on the island in the buffer zone. It's actually not so easy to find amphibians because they need a freshwater habitat. This lovely photo over here from a tree frog was actually taken by the professor I showed you earlier, Bayram Göçmen. So it's a tiny tree frog sitting on a grape. I'm just moving fast so that we can be on time. I wanted to see if you know what is the most well-known bird in Cyprus. Okay. Cyprus is quite famous actually for its greater flamingos. So Cyprus supports internationally important numbers of this species. They come to Cyprus to spend the winter here. 2 main wetland areas and then smaller populations in other places. So they mainly come to Larnaca and Akrotiri salt lakes. And up to 10 to 11,000 birds may spend the winter in Cyprus. So these are very important numbers of this bird. We didn't see these species within the buffer zone. So how many species of birds are found in Cyprus? More than 400 species. And in the buffer zone, we did not actually have the freedom to study the birds the way we study them outside the buffer zone, because if you see, many areas are mined. And also, wherever we went, we had the United Nations soldiers had to escort us wherever we went. And we couldn't really take telescopes to do our counts. We were not allowed to, because the soldiers in the Turkish group, the Turkish Cypriot and the Greek Cypriot soldiers wouldn't want to see us using telescopes in the buffer zone. So here, this is just a sneaky photo where I use the binoculars. But usually when I was doing field work, there would be some United Nations soldier would be breathing down my neck, basically, and telling me not to use binoculars. So amazingly for this project, we got the Game and Fauna Service of the Ministry of Interior from Cyprus to actually cooperate with us officially on this project. So the bird counts were done by the Game and Fauna Service personnel and myself. In the buffer zone, out of the 400 bird species found in Cyprus, we found about 200 species. And again, this is by doing the minimal amount of fieldwork possible, because in a way we had our hands tied. We had to be very careful, and we were not allowed to do the counts and the studies that we can do outside the buffer zone. So just some highlights. We found very important populations of this bird. It's called the Eurasian thickney, which unfortunately is disappearing in other parts of Cyprus because of unsustainable human development. And we also found some very interesting areas where birds of prey, generally birds of prey, but also many raptors may use for migration. So we actually detected some very interesting locations within the buffer zone that we believe should be hotspots for conservation once there is a Cyprus solution. Okay, this is just to sum up. This is not so that we can show off about our work, but actually this project really got a lot of publicity, and it still is. So it received the Best Project Award by the European Countries Biologists Association, and we are very happy about that because we wanted to highlight a cooperation between Greek and Turkish Cypriot scientists. And here we were all together with Salih Bugel. We were actually selected as a Mediterranean science team. And this gave us the opportunity, we traveled to Spain for this, and it gave us the opportunity to stress that in Cyprus, Greek and Turkish Cypriot scientists, and obviously people from other nationalities as well, because we had other members in our team as well, that we actually have been cooperating in Cyprus for many years, and we are promoting protection of the environment on the island. So for us, this was the symbolism of these awards that we got. And generally, this project has, as I mentioned, received a lot of media attention in the past, and actually it still does, because it's seen as a very good showcase of cooperation. And we are hoping that this is going to, well, over the years, we've been hoping that this cooperation that we have with each other and between our teams is actually going to inspire more people in Cyprus to realize that it's possible for our both communities to cooperate. And as Salih also thanked the United Nations, I would like to thank Nicolas Giraud for his invaluable support during this work, and Fritz Schiebler from UNFICYP, and many other people, and UNDP Act for financial support of the project. So this was just a showcase of one of the projects that we have been working on. Okay, thank you for your attention. This is a photo actually that Salih took inside the buffer zone, and I think it was near Varisha area. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Iris. And I think absolutely you should be blowing your own trumpets about the work you've done and the accolades you have got for your work, because you are absolutely right. Working together, it just shows what can be done. And I love the picture of the mouflon because they are near mythical. I remember as a child going up through those mountains and being told they existed there somewhere, but we never ever saw one. So to see herds it's magnificent. Great photos, Salih. That's brilliant. I have never seen so many. You only ever saw them on the Cyprus Airways tail fin.
Yes, exactly.
That was it. Again, loads of questions, but I will hold back, and I will now again share my screen to introduce our next speaker. And here we go. And our next speaker is Sophia Matzi, who is the Executive Director of the Cyprus Environmental Foundation. And Sophia today is presenting a paper, One Island, One Mission, Investing in Cyprus Environment Through Conservation Projects. So Sophia, if you're ready there, I'll stop sharing my screen, and thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well?
We can indeed. Yes. Thank you, Sophia.
Amazing. Thank you very much for having us today. It's so great to see people that we work with and that their work affects our islands so greatly. I'm here to talk about a couple of projects that relate to today's talks. As a foundation, we're a non-profit foundation, Cyprus Environment Foundation. We are active in Cyprus, but we're part of a global network. Currently, there are other 20 organizations globally, and each organization is focused in their own region, in their own territory. There are lots of organizations in the Mediterranean. That is, of course, not random. There's always a need to create, to conserve nature in beautiful places, and the Mediterranean has lots of them. So we are part of a global umbrella called the Conservation Collective, which is based in the UK and has been founded by philanthropist Ben Goldsmith. The organization has been active since 2008, and just to give you an idea of, the sums of money raised and distributed locally, in the last couple of years, over 2 million euros were raised and distributed locally by our network. So we're doing similar work in Cyprus as our sister foundations, and our goal is to protect and enhance the natural beauty, biodiversity, and ecosystems of Cyprus. And the way we do that is by fundraising, and we collect funds from individuals who have close bonds to Cyprus, and they like the island and they want to see the nature protected, by corporates, companies that they want to support the island through their ESG work, which is something that's getting a lot of momentum in the last few years, or larger foundations than ours. So, by having this multifaceted approach, we tend to attract funds to the island to be then used by our specialists, by the local specialists doing this excellent work. And we saw 2 samples previously with Dr. Salih and Dr. Iris' work. So I am very happy to say that in contrast to what Dr. Iris was sharing before, now we have a lot of specialists doing excellent work, and our mission as a foundation is to support their work, their research, or their any activity, field work, research work, lobby, anything that has to do with protecting the environment, essentially. And we celebrated recently our 2 years, celebrated supporting more than 20 projects and collaborating with 17 partners across the island, and raising over 180,000 euros, distributing over 180,000 euros in a form of grants. Now I'll be showcasing this. These are samples of impact that was achieved in the last in the first 2 years of our activities, and I would encourage people who find this interesting to visit our website, because every project we support is up there and it has all the details. Today I will be sharing the spotlight, putting the spotlight on 2 of the projects that has to do, starting off with one of the projects Dr. Salih was talking about, wetlands and all island wetland monitoring, and I will be talking about this sort of activities. This was a project that was a collaboration between 2 organizations, let's say the bird experts of the island, Kuşgor and BirdLife Cyprus. The reason behind monitoring the wetlands and why that's crucial, essentially the status of our wetlands is changing very rapidly because of many factors: land use change, climate change, many unsustainable anthropogenic activities. And when we, as Salih mentioned, when we don't monitor, we have no idea what we're missing out or what we need to be protecting. So the idea of this project was to, as simple as just supply volunteers with optical equipment, so they could be on a monthly basis monitoring wetlands of Cyprus, recruiting and training people to be surveyors, and then just starting to survey and collect data. So at the end of the project, 10 citizen science, as we call them, who are key in conservation, because they're out there, I've mentioned before, they're out there taking pictures and pretty much providing data that informs conservation policies. And I'll share the example in a little bit of how that came into this project. So 30 wetlands are monitored monthly now that the optical equipment is available. And what has been an outcome was that we realized important wetlands because of diversity and abundance that was identified in this site, which led to advocacy, which eventually would lead to their protection. So that's the Palekithro pool. It is a very small wetland on Pedieos River, which was mentioned before by Dr. Salih. It is quite famous because amongst the bird watchers, and since 2014, it has been become part of the Miamilya important bird area. So this site is so important that has been used intensively by the Kushkor ringing scheme, and has been the focus of research for over 20 years. The unfortunate thing, though, is that, as you see on the picture, at some point, the area was notoriously used as landfill by the local Kythera municipality. So that's, that's something that that we see in this picture. But due to monitoring, now, the team was able to prove how significant was this site. As you see in this slide on the left, within the first 3 months of the project, with data collected, the site ranked in the top 15 of more than 100 wetlands that were monitored in terms of diversity, we see below, and abundance. So, number of species that were there was exceptional. So that says a lot on, we're talking about an important site and that we should be conserving, which, having this data in hand led to legal action that is now being in process, ordering the local municipality to move the waste out of this area into an official management site. So this is just an example of, by monitoring, by providing the, let's say, minimal resources to equipped citizens, in this case, we can drive conservation. So without having any data, we cannot really support the argument that we need to conserve this place. This is an important place in Cyprus. So this was one example that was quite significant in its realization. Another one that we're still working at this point is Bon Track. This is a project that's working with Bonelli eagles up on Pentadactylos mountain range, again with the bird specialist Kushkor, the Society of Protection of Birds and Nature. The Bonelli's eagles are listed on Annex 1 of the Wild Bird Directive, and overall their populations are declining. Pentadactylos mountain range is considered a key region for their breeding, but also the wetlands who connect to the mountains, to the Pentadactylos mountain range, are used heavily by the species during their lifetimes. But this, this network of regions, of spaces, they're not currently protected. They're not currently of a special environment protected area, SEPA. And so, actions, the goal is eventually, by collecting data through a project like this, is to conclude into the realization that we know that the species is using area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Therefore, we should be connecting these areas and protecting them so we can protect the species. And of course, we all know by protecting one species, there's a snowball effect, and we do a lot more, and we conserve a lot more. So the goal of this project was to tag 4 Bonelli's eagles up on Pentadactylos Mountains, create 1 documentary film on the species and raising awareness, and with data collected, then advocate for updating the policy and designated important bird areas as SEPAs that I mentioned before, and updating current management plans. So 3 fledglings were tagged up to now. I will share some results later on. The documentary I will share in a little bit. If we could have also your support, it has been accepted in 4 documentary festivals so far, and it is actually now nominated for the Ealing Film Festival, and people can vote of their favorite. That's up and going until the end of December, till the 27th of December. If you can scan this code, then that leads you to the website of the festival. You can actually watch the mini documentary. I think it's like 7 minutes long, and you can vote and support the documentary, which essentially it is raising awareness on the importance of these species and how significant it is to know more about the species and conserve it and its spaces. When you go also on the project's website, you're able to watch also a mini documentary, 4 minutes, that we created about the projects, talking about its achievements and challenges. That's an easy way to grasp, let's say, like all the things that I shared so far. This is just a snapshot sharing. What you see here is the 3 tagged individuals, and we see that they don't recognize boundaries. There's no green line based on Bonelli's movement. We see them that they just move around the island. They're not particularly interested in Troodos Mountains. You see the mountain range not really used, but they use most of the times in open woodland areas and plains. So it is quite important to, by seeing the movement of these birds, we start to understand more which are the important areas we should be conserving, we should be protecting in order to protect them. So, talking about protection, we tag a species in the northwestern, but that species ends up dying by electrocution in the southeastern part of Ireland. So again, they don't recognize, where one side ends and where the other one starts. It's part of their foraging grounds. And unfortunately, this is something we see not only with Bonellis, we see with vultures in Cyprus, and measures should be taken by the electricity authority to just avoid this unfortunate incident. This was, a few months young Bonellis eagles, that 6 months old, that we lost. And this is a final screenshot. What we see here is just a few days of flying, and we see that the bird just visits so many areas across the island. Most of it oftentimes visiting artificial dams, wetlands that we have, and it demonstrates the connectivity with the nesting population here up on Pentadactylos, and we've got also another population up on Troodos, and there is a connectivity that can be concluded by the maps that were created, and the end goal is that the published results will be useful to help update the management plans for Pentadactylos mountain range, and help us designate, the important areas and zoning for the conservation of the species. It's also a proof to help mitigate dangers threats that they currently have through electrical installations as well as other. So having a tagged individual dying, unfortunately, 6 months after in the course of project, it is an unfortunate conclusion, but it is also a push towards change. So by saying that, working with birds and wetlands, that's not what CEF only does. We have a variety of projects by conserving species, investing in education, investing in our farmers and more sustainable farming and reduction of plastic waste. And we just want to keep on supporting more initiatives across the island and spreading the good news. So I will leave you with an inspiring quote by Ben Goldsmith, who visited Cyprus, by the way, and he was absolutely enamored by what he saw. It was very, very short, but he was very, very in love with what he saw, and he confirmed that just by minimal investment to projects in a region can just supercharge the work of the local heroes, and we'll hear more about more work after. So if you wanna follow our work, go ahead and you can type our website, but also please don't forget to vote for the documentary if you have some time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sophia. I will be voting. Don't worry. Again, absolutely incredible. I'm learning so much this afternoon. I not only didn't know that there were eagle indigenous to Cyprus, but I never heard of the Bonelli eagle before. So absolutely fascinating. Everything, all the work that you are doing here. I'm biting my tongue to hold back questions here because, again, so many. I will again share my screen first, however, and introduce our next speaker, who is Dr. Michael Louisidis, who is chairman of ISOTEC, the Environmental Research and Consultancy. He will give a talk on environmental technical committee building bridges of trust through actions on our common environment. So Michael, if you are on standby, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, there you go. And I will mute. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Alice. And I'm very sorry that I'm an engineer, unfortunately. I'm not a biologist, I'm not an ecologist, but whenever I hear about birds flying freely everywhere, I really feel frustrated because division is a man-made, unfortunately, creation. And as such, it's ugly, unsustainable, and by all means, contra natura, as we call it. And that's why I love you so much, all those people that are dealing with natural environment. And that's why I'm so close and in such a cooperation. Now, the good thing is that in our technical committee, we have one biologist, specialist in flora, fauna, ecosystems, and Dr. Salih, you know him very well. And I'm the chemical environmental engineer that I'm dealing with the man-made environment. But today I will introduce our committee and all the projects that we have proceeded, we have created around the issues of environment and the nature. So just to say that whatever you see today, we are trying to transform project into tools for building bridges of trust. And the question is, how do you do that? And it's by bringing together scientists. Amazingly so, we found a way to bring people even from decision-making area, let's say appointed in administration. So we managed to bring them in their personal capacity, bring them together and start finding solutions together with local authorities, with NGOs. And at the end of the day, we bring also the people, the Cypriots, together, either in meetings or workshops, or even in cultural fairs or events. So just to say that the thematic areas that we are working at this moment, it is solid waste management, wastewater treatment, water resources, air quality mining, biodiversity and nature protection, which is our today's topic, and of course, urban environment. May I also say that it's different angles that we are looking at those issues. So just imagine that the moment that we had the oil spill that you all know a few years ago, we immediately dispatched a drone from the north with Salih, and we managed to see exactly where it is and if we had to further find solutions, because a huge oil spill was coming toward. So we could do many things. We had booms, we had ways to reach the area and stop the oil spill. But also, one of the things that you will see today, it's even small efforts. So the foresters from both sides, they told us towards the villages, and unfortunately, they are being killed by villagers because they destroy their fruits, their vegetables. So we managed to open holes in areas that we knew that there was water. And this year, we saw that the migration of mouflons was reduced in 10% of previous years. So even with those small interventions, as Sophia said, we could make the difference. So I'm so happy that we are together today. You see, what we are doing is actually, we start with the problem and we ask the scientists from both sides, like that one, Agrokipia, that they are all geologists, to come together and for site visits. We see the problem and then we sit on a workshop and we find ideas that then we fund through the facility. Maybe you should know that the European Union, together with UN, UNDP, and the two leaders decided that they will allow 1 million euros for technical committees assisted by NGOs and civil society in order to find solution in everyday projects, in everyday problems, and to approach them in the best way. So we also had issues on air pollution. Just to show an example, that a few days ago, we had a huge fire in the industry in the north. All the plume, all the fumes were coming in Kaimakli, and we wanted to see if the plume was toxic, so to evacuate the area. It was all right, so we were with Salih in contact every minute of that day, just to check out that we are okay and we don't need to do anything else but just monitoring. So we also have these issues with nature. Kakamas, we are supporting at this moment projects with Kareta Kareta, with Helonia Mitas, and also ecosystems like Klimos River and Kormakitis, as far as it concerns the trees, the carob trees that are being eaten by rats. So we had, we will show right after. So this is something that we already said. It's something that usually Salih is presenting. So we are afraid of wildfires, heat waves, invasive species, water stress, and of course, the usual development activities that I'm very keen and interested in. Let's see some projects. The micro reserves. I will give an example of how we approach, as I told you, to create from the project, create tools for the local Cypriots, the people that are around the area, to be involved in this area in Mamari. we saw that the bugs, I'm not expert, I'm saying again, that they are doing the pollination are not there anymore. So we are using actually every year the students from the local school, and we go all together, and we are actually pollinating using several techniques that Salih, Kostas Kadis, and all the other experts are showing to the kids. So you see that from one scientific issue, we ended up by bringing together youth from both sides to cooperate in one scope that is so important for the whole Cyprus. Then we have the second one that is now deploying. It's environmental caretakers. Actually, they will be educated, they will be trained by experts on how to find wounded animals, what to do with it, whom to call, how to react. So we create out of young people the caretakers, environmental caretakers that will actually be our eyes and our voice. The same goes to pest management that I will show you in a few minutes, on agriculture and forestry. This is an amazingly serious issue that I could never imagine that came like that, the wildfires, the rehabilitation, GIS. So it's the prevention of loss, and then the protection, which the tree pruning, the barnels, water sources, all those are projects, are activities that have taken place in Cyprus, and together with NGOs, together with scientists from both communities. So turtle nesting, awareness raising, and through site visits and building experts network. It's amazing all those years that we cooperate with Salih on those issues, how many activities. Unfortunately, we cannot really disseminate all those things in the way we wanted. And the reason that the moment that they see that we are the politicians from both communities, that they see things happening, they immediately feel threatened, and they start thinking if this is politically sound and all those things. So we are in a bit of humble approach on these issues, and this is something that we may discuss. The micro reserves that I told you and that we have involved the students, it's an amazing thing to be able to preserve small areas, but really preserve them and keep them out of reach of developments. The one that I told you about the mouflons, okay, photographs, that we used the UNDP, the foresters from both sides, and we managed to keep the mouflons in the area we wanted. Also, you see here that we are showing to locals how to protect trees and how to prune them in the buffer zone, and how to preserve them from rats instead of using poisons. Also the air issues. And you also see that we are following the situation with the climate change, of course, and we are supporting all the efforts whenever they need from NGOs and other scientific groups. Also, it's one of the issues that I wanted to tell you, that although the politicians are trying to keep us divided, sometimes you see that even nature is reacting. I'm smiling, but it's a very serious issue, that unfortunately through our suitcase, sometimes we see things abroad and we like it. And when we see a nice leaf and we bring it, or a nice fruit or vegetable, and we say, all right, I will bring it to my country, I will bring it. And so what's happening is that at this moment we have this Diaphorina citri that is actually, it's a moth that eventually will create the bacteria, that wherever this bacteria was found, all citrus tree of that country, of this area, died. So it's something that the European Union is following, if we find this bacterium, then we will not be able to export anything from Cyprus concerning oranges and other citrus fruits. So this is something that we now manage to bring scientists from all over Europe and from all over Cyprus. We sit together and we are forming a very, very interesting action plan that will be applied all over the island for the first time. The amazing thing, and I was teasing the biologists that they were there, that we brought tamaritia, they call it. It's something that eats the Aphorina citri. It's the only enemy, and because we don't have local enemies, we brought it from outside. But the Turkish Cypriots brought one taxa of tamaritia, one genotype, let's say, of tamaritia, and the Greek Cypriots brought another one. So the two genotypes are attacking each other. It's amazing that we managed to find, even in this area, a way to have, let's say, a war instead of fighting the Aphorina citri. So anyway, it's very funny, but also very sad. So now we sat together and we said, no, we will bring and we will cultivate the right taxa, let's say, organism, I will say it like that, that will attack the Aphorina citri. Now, as far as concerns the prickly pears, unfortunately, we haven't found a solution yet, and we are losing all prickly pears of Cyprus. It's now near Limassol, started from, I think, Amohostos or Famagusta area, and it's now reaching, it covered all Nicosia, and it's reaching Limassol. And of course, we have another one. Last month, we had another one for zucchini. It attacks zucchini and cucumbers. And all those are coming from abroad, and we have to find a way to have common and island-wide approach to attack them. And also pine moths, it was a very interesting effort. Also, I would say that we have another project now running, which is GeoHeritage. Since it's not our focus today, I will leave it up to here and go to the environmental caretakers. As I told you, that we are now, it's now a project that just began, and using two NGOs from Turkish Cypriot NGO and a Greek Cypriot NGO, we are starting this project, which will train almost 30 at the beginning youth to be our watch, our, let's say, caretakers. And also, just to give you, we're trying now to boost our communication campaign through all those nice things. You see that even the politicians managed to react and to say that they don't like this, how do you say, this pipe that we put this red shirt. They don't like either the shirt or the pois that we have used on it. It's amazing what the politician can find to stop efforts that are very nice and very, very, let's say, beneficial for all Cyprus. So we also have our website that you can find all those efforts in detail, and you can scan also the QR code. And by saying those things, I wanted to thank you very much. It's 11 minutes. To thank you very much and to promise that we are here for all of you. Whoever believes that can allocate an issue that it's mutually interested, we can discuss it and we can fund it. We can at least assist and support. Thank you very much, and I hope that we have a fruitful dialogue.
Thank you very much. Again, another fascinating talk. And Michael, I too am an engineer in training, so you're not alone on this forum. But I hate to say my background is in polymer engineering, plastics and rubber. So maybe I can talk to you separately about some initiatives that maybe can be looked at in that respect. And I absolutely loved that. I think it's a good allegory, the two pests from opposite sides attacking each other. I think the politicians should know about that and see that even in nature, you've got to work together. So again, tons of questions, but I will move on to our last speaker of the day. And again, I will just share my screen here. And that is Nora Hajisudiru. Let's have it. There we go. And let me just get this up. So yes, so our next speaker is Nora Hajisudiru, who is the Director of Atlantis Culture and co-director of Ideogramma. And she is going to talk. We're now heading to the seas, and Nora will speak to us about the 2025 Second International Ayanapa Winter Swimmers Festival. So I will stop sharing now, and over to you, Nora.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, so lovely. I can see that. Thank you.
So I am a Famagustian who lives temporarily in Nicosia, but also spends quite a lot of time in Ayanapa as I am a winter swimmer, which is something quite new, but it's attracting quite a lot of people on the island. So our club was established in 2003, in January 2003. As you can see here, it's a day when we were cutting our Vasilopita. And this year, in January 2024, we held the first Winter Swimmers Festival, which we co-organized together with the Ayanapa municipality. Our aim is to try and so that we can help turn the Free Famagusta area into, and by extension the whole island, into a 12-month tourist attraction or destination. We have winter swimming beaches all over the island with lifeguards 12 months a year. So last January, on the 21st of January, we held the first Winter Swimmers Festival. And as you can see, the day was a bit cloudy, but the water was quite warm. This is all of our 204 swimmers getting ready to go into the water. And I will give you some numbers. We had 126 swimmers from the Famagusta area, obviously the largest number, 41 from Larnaca, 35 swimmers from Limassol, but the group that came from Limassol was almost 60. 11 from Paphos, and the group was closer to 35, 22 from Nicosia, and we had some non-Cypriots, or if you like, foreign residents, 7 from Russia, 3 from Ukraine, Britain and Australia, 2 each, Bulgaria, Latvia, South Africa, 1 each. We had 54 hotel room overnights that we know of, and on the night before, on the Saturday, at a get to know each other event, we had 123 people for dinner and dancing. On the day, we awarded the eldest, and that was Andrula Franco, who was 89 years old, and the youngest swimmer, which was Eleni Garayani at 7 years old. I want to give you some water temperatures. Okay, so the coldest sea in Ayanapa is at 17.5, is in January, which is the same in Oslo in August, which is the warmest, and in Bournemouth in September, again, the warmest, and in Ibiza in May. Our club is a member of both the World Open Water Swimming Association and the International Winter Swimming Association. And I want to say here that when we applied to the International Winter Swimming Association, they were quiet for a few days. And then they came back to say that they were going to create a new category called chilly waters, which would apply for swimming at temperatures between 5 and 17, so that they could actually accept us in their association. They usually swim at waters of class 2 to 5. So following a truly successful 2024, we are working very hard on the next edition, which is taking place this January on the 19th. We are working together with the local travel agency, Top Guinnesses, who have put together a minimum of a 3-day stay with special prices from the hotels that are open during that time, and who will be coordinating the requests. We did an advertising campaign on Facebook that has reached 25,000 people in Europe. The event, the day, will include obviously swimming. It will also include a Tai Chi exercise event, if you like, that was extremely successful last year. And it will also have some additional innovative events this year. It will have sand castling, or I should say maybe sand artwork, a sand artwork competition. There will be a demonstration of SUP, stand-up paddling, and also a passing of sailing boats. After the swim, and in order to get warm again, we will be offering trachana and pumpkin soups, as well as zivania. Participation and registration are free. As I said before, we have special prizes at hotels, and one can visit our Facebook page to get all the latest information. So if you are a swimmer or even not, please do come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nora. I must admit the Zivania would be more of an incentive to me than the Drachana, but that's a personal take on it. Really interesting to hear of what you're doing, the swimming group, and I am sure there'll be plenty of questions. And if I may kick off the questions to Zahir first, I was wondering if you are finding it easier to engage with people now. You said that you started in 2006, but now with so much more international awareness of environmental concerns and the impacts, the importance of the environment, do you find it easier now to engage than you did at the beginning? Sorry, that was to Dalek. I don't know if you're still there, maybe not. Can't see. I will move on. The next question I had was to Iris. I think I can still.
I am here, Alicia.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Thank you. Yes, I was just wondering if you found it.
If I could interrupt, maybe you could ask everybody to switch on their cameras so that since we are talking with each other.
Absolutely, please do. Yes, you're more than welcome now at this stage. Thank you, Nora. Good suggestion. So yes, Salih, do you find it easier to engage now with people environmentally than you did because there's so much more awareness now? Do you find it easier than you did at the beginning?
Yeah, it's very easy now compared to those days. Now, like the understanding, the awareness among people that we now is more that we have to do things together. I mean, this island is ours. If we don't act together, then something stays missing. So that's why I think it's, and I'm happy that like people are aware of what needs to be done at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that the cross section you've taken, it's very unusual, and probably it's quite unique that you have that long, thin going from coast to coast as your point of reference, whereas most would have maybe a boxed off area where it's quite samey in nature and the environments. The fact that you have access to that complete cross section across the middle of the island, I'm sure that's given you a lot of interesting results as well.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it's as they say in English, it's saying an ill wind that blows no good. So it's good that, you know, there is some positives that can come out of this, that you can research the environment so much better. I was just going to ask if you're seeing more expertise in Cyprus, because you mentioned that a lot of your experts had to be brought in. Again, because you've got that increased awareness environmentally that is now pan-global, if you found that that reflects also in the population of Cyprus, that you are getting more experts, that more people are interested in studying these fields. Sorry, that's to Iris.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought it was to Sally. Yes, definitely. Thank you for your question. The last 10 years, there's been like an explosion suddenly. Like when I first returned to Cyprus in 2003, it was like a desert. It was very few people. We were searching. We couldn't find experts. Now, the last 10 years, there's really a lot of ecologists now in Cyprus and a lot of environmental scientists. There's also a department at the Open University that's doing also master's and PhD degrees in these subjects. So many Cypriots now are continuing their studies. Also, the University of Cyprus has a biodiversity department. So actually, there's lots more people now. And like Sophia said, there are many organizations now. Actually, I think now it's much easier to find. There's still some expertise that's missing, actually, but generally there are a lot more people now who are qualified and who know what they're doing and who are interested and very passionate as well. So it's positive.
Yes, very positive.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You and Sally mentioned the wetlands that was being filled in. The EU wants to fill it in. Was there any reason why they wanted to fill it in? Was it just to reclaim land? Maybe Salih, I think you mentioned it first. The filling in that you were saying about a water hole that the wet birds were using, and the EU were filling it in. Was that because of reclaiming land, or did they give a reason?
It's to reclaim the land back. I mean, they should. I don't want to go into details now. I mean, but like if they made it, if they turn it into a wetland, I mean,
yes,
and then it became an attraction point for animals. Then
yes,
instead of taking it back, before taking it back, you have to find a solution for this. Not to wait. I mean, not to do it secretly or sneakily, and wait for the civil society to react to it. I mean, so now this is what's happening. Thanks to the sensitivity of the NGOs from both sides. They are cooperating. They are working together to convince the European Union to build another wetland, so that they can reclaim that land back.
Yes, so again a positive move, that it's recognized, the importance is recognized, that a halt is called to any more damage being done to it. And Sophia, you mentioned the citizen scientists, which is a terrific idea. They have an incentive here that they do a couple of times a year here in the UK, where they have a national bird count and a national butterfly count, where they ask everyone, they give you a day of the year, and they say for 1 hour, go out and count the species and trying to record the species that you see just in your patch, and then you submit the findings, so they can build up a map to show the different species in different areas. I want, is it something similar in Cyprus, or would something like that, do you think, work for the engagement of the entire population to get everyone on board with it?
That's a great initiative shared there, Alicia, and I do see a lot of promising future in the participation of citizens. I'm certain also Iris and Salih will have in mind other citizen science projects in Cyprus that are running. I am aware that we have pollinators. We have a pollinators project running, in encouraging people to use apps on their phone, recording and reporting on species. As an organization, we also work with specialized groups of professionals, like amateur fishermen, and engaging with them, having them, training them as citizen scientists. And we, up to now, the projects that I've witnessed, I've seen only a positive feedback, and people being very, very engaged with, with the outcomes of what they are contributing to the scientific community, and eventually the conservation of the places and the species they love. So I don't see why not. It would not succeed in Cyprus, because we see the young people even more enthusiastic about getting out in nature and engaging with learning more about what we have as surroundings. But already I can see results and a successful conservation of species, just with 2 examples that we've worked with up to now. But I'm sure more projects are going on in Cyprus that others are aware of.
Yes, it's very impressive that the small snapshots that you had, you're saying that once a month, or for just a snapshot each time, that you've managed to record so many species and so much variety as well. And Michael, it sort of follows up to the question I had for you, a similar sort of thing. You were talking about working with young people. Do you go out into schools? Do you engage schools as well, or is it just the young people here and come to you, or are your group's proactive going into schools to ask for help?
Actually, maybe you don't know that there is a technical committee on education.
Okay.
And they were deprived of their, let's say, activities in the schools for political reasons again.
Okay.
So we are afraid of going into the school. So we call upon the students and the educators to come to us, and on a voluntarily basis. Eventually, we will end up in the schools. It's just that at this moment, Cyprus is facing a bit of a problem in the political arena. We don't care. I mean, we don't care. Of course we care. We are not living in a political vacuum. However, you understand that we are doing our best based on what we have in front of us. I mean, if every time politicians had issues, we had stopped, there wouldn't be one bird to watch or to research on. I mean, it's a detrimental situation. It's a very problematic situation. The good thing is that science keeps on going, whatever happens.
Yeah, but it's sad that that's the backdrop you're trying to work within. It's a difficult situation, but I mean, hats off to you all. You're circumnavigating it very well, and really, you can see the results. With what you're presenting, you can absolutely see the positive results. Nora, I was wondering, you talking about the swimming with the sea swimming. Do you find more pollution in the sea, or do you find that things are getting better? Because I know there's been various incentives to stop waste, and especially around the Ayia Napa region, the council have set out leaflets with telling tourists about the plastic waste and how to dispose of it correctly. Do you find in the sea that there is still a problem, or Do you think that things are getting better?
Not as much as a few years ago, if you say, which was not very much to begin with. The IANABA is awarded every year with a blue flag for, I think, most, if not all of its beaches. And the pollution actually comes from the ships that go by and they let it go and it comes out onto the shore, as opposed to from the people that live there or, you know, go swimming or whatever it is that they are doing. But there is some, it depends on the currents. Fortunately, at least at the Makaronissos beach where I am, the current takes everything out. It's not a bay that brings everything in. So it's very rare that anything comes from, as I said, from deep in the sea that comes out.
It's still sad. It's still something I think that that councils and communities need to get a handle on that as well, the amount of pollution and what effect that has on the environment, and where the buffer zone, the studies on the buffer zone is so interesting, because you just are looking at a near sterile area, you know, where there hasn't been this ongoing pollution other than I think as Michael was saying, with the smoke pollution coming across various things, but the actual jettisoning of waste that the wildlife is able to move freely without having to encounter all the other waste. I was wondering, sort of a general question, was no, I'll hold off. I just see Michael. Sorry, because I have so many questions. It's so interesting.
Alicia,
Please,
just
Michael,
to add something, on what Nora said and on your question, is that since I'm working on this issue with the sea, we don't have heavy industry in Cyprus. One is that. The second thing is that we managed to have in all the coastal areas of Cyprus, we have wastewater treatment plants. So, and the third one, which is very interesting, and nobody knows it actually, I mean, apart from the Cypriots, is that we also have another very positive thing with the waters in Cyprus. We don't have sharks, in the sense that it's an oligotrophic environment with so little fishes. So the predators are not really coming here. You see that we never had an attack in Cyprus. And if the tourists knew about it, so some Australian were asking me, oh, it's amazing, I'm coming here and I cannot see signs with all the dangerous issues. It's the only place in the earth that we don't have dangerous issues. When you enter, not rip currents, not fishes, not whatever, snakes, whatever you can imagine. It's the best place in the world to come for swimming.
Excellent. There you go, Nora. You have to put that in your posters. Were there any other questions before I hog all the questions? Was there any other questions from anybody? Then I'm going to add a question, because Michael, that brings it around nicely with the talk about the tourists and the seas and the safety. Environmental tourism, do you think that this is important, or do you think this is something that needs to be looked at more? Because there is sometimes there's a call to wean off the sun, sand and sea tourists, that they just come and they don't understand the islands and they don't understand the environment. But there is so much more awareness of environmental factors now, and there, I won't say better educated, but in a sense, sort of better educated. You know, that you have tourists that will come in with a different mindset, that they're not just interested in sitting in the sun for 2 weeks, that they want to learn more, they want to engage more, they want to understand the environment. Do you think that maybe in terms of, because we know the impact environmentally of tourism on any community and any environment, do you think looking at environmental tourism or green tourism, that maybe is the direction the islands could take?
You're absolutely right, and it's a brilliant question and it's a brilliant suggestion. I wouldn't suggest it at this moment, and the reason is that if you go with the safari in Akamas and you see the destruction that's happening, this means a strategy, a policy that all that will attract those very sensitive people that is called environmental tourists. Now, it's really something that we should look into it. And I must confess that we have, let's say, geotourists. Geotourists, the reason is that Cyprus, it's a mecca. It's a mecca for geology. And that's why we do the geoheritage, because it came out from the sea. And so you can see all things. I mean, 1/3 of whatever you can see in around the world, you can see it in geology in Cyprus. So the same way we could approach all the environmental tourists. However, we are not as sensitive as we should. And I'm finishing with that. Last Sunday, I brought friends from England, and we're actually walking in how do you say this, nature trails. And it was Sunday, and it was there were more than 60 hunters shooting at us. At us. No, I'm not joking. And so one of them asked me if we are committing suicide, if we want to die. I mean, why are you here? They were asking me. For God's sake, I mean, you cannot attract tourists, environmental tourists, and shoot them. So it's a very peculiar situation, and we have to take care of it. I took the kids and everybody and left. So you're absolutely right. Very good idea. It has to be put in a completely different angle of what we have today in Cyprus.
Yes, I must admit, I did not appreciate the difficulties of tourist trails or nature trails in Cyprus. Interesting. I think probably.
Sophia disagree. Let her. Yes, Sophia. I see that she's not smiling. She's very serious about it, and she's thinking of something different. Huh?
No,
Sophia,
I was on a trail yesterday, and actually was I would say blessed that nobody else was there, which is very unfortunate because we don't appreciate enough in Cyprus as Cypriots to go out in lovely days like yesterday, for example, and enjoy the trails. But hunting, I would agree with you, and not only hunting, I would also add cross country, the motorcycles that they get, which also puts your life in a risk when you're hiking with a little one or your own, and then you have these big motorcycles roaming in the path. It's forbidden for them to be there, but we don't have the mentality to say we are enjoying nature in a responsible way. We need a lot of education in Cyprus for that.
Yeah. And I think it also, going back to the hunting, I remember, all the visits. I didn't grow up in Cyprus, but I spent a lot of time there, especially younger. And the only time, my grandfather had a citrus farm, so very interesting to hear about all the issues, with the pests. But the only time, even though I was out on the farm and out in nature, the only time I saw birds was in a jar on the top in the butchers, the pickled birds, the little birds. You just wouldn't see, other than a few sparrows around, but they would be hunted. Immediately a songbird landed and it would be hunted. So and I know it's been banned now, but yeah, it's amazing that anything has managed to persist, any species has persisted, and the amount of species that you've found in the country that's persisted is good. And absolutely, I think you're absolutely right, it is education, and there's a mindset at the moment that is shifting, and hopefully in another generation you won't have the hunters going out and thinking it's all right to shoot everything that moves, and that maybe we will see a way through it, but I maybe not overnight, but hopefully with the work that you're all doing, that we are on the right path. And I'm hoping to sound positive now.
But this is a suggestion, Alicia. It's an amazing suggestion in the sense that if we put this as a priority, environmental tourism, then the government will have to do something about it, especially in certain areas. I mean, I didn't know that it was allowed to hunt in nature trails. This was something that I thought that we have solved it. But in the Ligipos that I was there, the situation was like that. And it was one of the few times that I've seen such a thing, I must confess. So we have to, if we put it as a priority and as a suggestion of maybe of this workshop, it could be something that would trigger changes.
Absolutely. And with this workshop, I'd like to, at this point, thank you all so much for, I think this is the first conference we've ever done where we've pretty much bang on time. I really would very sincerely like to thank you all for your time and for your presentations. I think it's been incredible hearing the different working across the 2 sessions. I have learned so much I never knew about before. I am recording this, as I said. The link will go out. We've had over 50 people interested in hearing. I know not all were able to join in, and I have had apologies of people that would like to have the link. So I do know that this talk, that this conference, this session will go out to a lot more people. We will make it public. We will advertise it again. And so your words will be heard by a lot more. So at this point, I'd like to thank you all very much for your contributions. I hope we all meet again. I'm hoping to be back in Cyprus. I have a list of things from archaeological to not nature trails maybe, but looking at some of the environmental work that you've been doing. And you've given me all so much homework to do now. And again, thank you so much for your time. Absolutely fantastic, fascinating talks, all of them. And we will hopefully have something similar again soon in person as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.